and gentlemen, it's the Insider's Edge podcast with your host, Karlifornia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the Slam Society. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. It's a joy to be with you all once again. And speaking of a joy, right here, right now, I get the opportunity to talk to this man right here. I have been so curious about his journey in life, in the professional wrestling business specifically, because he is from my city, Perth, Western Australia. Can't wait to dig into this one here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the only Mr. Ashley Hudson. How are you, sir?
Good day, mate. I'm all right.
Great to have you on the show, mate. And, this is something that I'm really interested in finding out. The same question I always ask everyone at the beginning of the podcast is, how did you become a professional wrestling fan before you got involved in the business?
I remember growing up watching it on TV when I was a kid. It was World Championship Wrestling with, I can't even remember the guys' names, but I was just a small child and I just always thought, man, that would be cool. That would be cool. Then it went away and then it came back. And as soon as it came back, it was as WWE or WWF as it was then. And I just got the bug again. And I got married young, got divorced young, and decided that I had a second chance in life. And so I was going to do something with it. So I ended up contacting the Hart brothers in California, Calgary, Canada. And that's where I ended up going. I trained up there for a little while, then ended up in California with Slammers Wrestling Gym. Then I ended up in Nashville and hooked up with the USWA, and that's where it started.
Right. Wow. Because, for me, that's such a jump, right? Perth, Western Australia is where you're living. You decide to take this big leap. The question I was plainly going to ask you is, how did you have the balls to just leave this isolated city and go to the other side of the world to chase this dream? Like, what was it in you that made you do something like that?
A burning desire to live life and chase my dream.
Excellent. That's inspiring, bro. That's inspiring, because for me, I feel often frustrated being in Perth sometimes, because I have all these dreams of things that I want to accomplish, but I just feel like I'm so far away. So you're living proof right here that, dreams can come true on that level when you live so far away from where the action is, I suppose you could say. So could you tell me a little bit about the experience training there in Calgary and what it was like training with the Harts?
I didn't actually train with the Hart brothers themselves. I trained with a couple of other guys, and after about 5 sessions, they wanted to put me in the ring, and I kind of got freaked out a little bit. So I contacted Vern Lagnan in California, and he said, "No, get out of there and come on down there." And when I went down into California, that was a whole different setup. They actually taught the wrestling business before you got in the ring. So I was kind of a little afraid that they would just kind of beat my butt and go on up in Calgary. But
yeah, no, I've heard many tales over the years of people with their training and just getting thrown into the lion's den, I suppose you could say. From my research on the internet, it said that you did let's have a look here. It says on your cagematch.net profile that one of your trainers was also Bill Dundee. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Yeah, I hooked up
with Bill Dundee in the USWA, and we did a tag team thing together, and then we ended up splitting and doing a match together. So yeah, he kind of took me under his wing a little bit.
Right, cool. So again, in my research, I can't find when your first match was. Do you have any memories of the first time that you actually went out there and wrestled in front of a crowd?
Okay. Oh yeah, I've got a very vivid memory. I was in a land halfway around the world from where I was raised. I was on the bones of my butt. I was living on cans of soup just to try and survive. I got my first match. It was just a little independent show in Nashville, Tennessee, and I got $10 for the match. I went straight to the grocery store. I bought a 6-pack and I bought a steak. I went home and cooked that steak and drank that 6-pack.
That is awesome. That is so Australian of you.
Hey, I'm Dinky Die.
How old were you at this stage?
Okay, I kayfabed my age through my whole wrestling career. I was 29, I think, when I first went over. I spent a year there, came home for a year, then went back. I went back in 1995, so I was at like 31 going on 32. So I was already older than everybody else. So I just dropped my age down by about 6 years and ran through that way. And when I actually retired in 2003, I was 40.
Right. Interesting, because that is in wrestling a bit older to get into the business, right?
Yeah. But see, I didn't have the opportunity. I had to make my opportunity. That was the thing. A lot of the guys here, they come straight out of high school, wrestle. I didn't have that opportunity. I just had one shot at it, and I took it and rode it for as long as I could. So,
all right, it's amazing. What did your family think of you just up and going to the other side of the planet?
I thought I was crazy until they saw me on TV.
Yeah, that's probably that's definitely a sign that it worked. And I wanted to ask about the 26th of July 1995, WCW Saturday Night. Bobby Eaton and Lord Steven Regal take on yourself and the Italian Stallion for my research here. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Well, I've tried to forget that one. That was my first introduction to the big time. I went down there and I had something that they wanted me to do, and they didn't give me the opportunity to do it. And Steven Regal just threw me all over the ring. But you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely, and it must have felt a little surreal. You'd seen it on telly, and now you're actually performing on the show, and it's going to air on television. I mean, for you must have been pretty nervous, but also just so excited that this is paying off in some way, that you've just lived a small dream right here.
Oh yes, it was very enlightening as far as that went, because I'd actually achieved what I'd set out to achieve. Well, at that point in my career, I wanted to go further, obviously, but
absolutely. And there's a journey in order to get there, and that journey leads you to wrestling in the USWA and Power Pro Wrestling in Memphis. Obviously, Memphis is very well known city for professional wrestling. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey through Memphis here, and what you learned about not only being a professional wrestler, but maybe what you learned about yourself as well?
I learned I'm pretty tough. That's one thing I did find out. I had a high tolerance for pain, because I tell you, they're getting thrown around 5 days a week, every week for year after year after year after year. It takes a toll on you. But they took me under their wing and taught me how to be a professional. Ran the roads with them. We were probably doing about 3,000 miles a week.
Wow.
Traveling, and I still trying to hold down a job because I still had to pay bills. It was an interesting time. And then when the WWE, WWF at that time, started doing their contract programs for up and comers, they brought them all down to Memphis, and that's when I got kind of pushed out of Memphis at that point.
Oh, really? That must have been annoying.
Yeah.
Would you say that there are any particular memories of your time wrestling in Memphis? Any stories of times in the ring that you could share?
Live on TV one time, I got knocked out. I was up on the rope, and they brought me down, like grabbed me from behind and pulled me down, and I went down. There was another guy laying there, and I hit the back of my head on his hips, and knocked me completely out. And I remember coming to a little bit and thought, I'm just going to lay here a little bit longer and reset the alarm. And then I realized that no, I was on live TV.
Gosh, that's great stuff. Not great, but it's a great story.
And one of the other ones that stand out is Brian Christopher did a roll up on me, and he pulled my trunks to where he bared my butt right on the camera.
Excellent stuff. So I believe your journey goes from Memphis. You move from there to wrestling in Nashville for Music City Wrestling. So tell me a little bit about this. You're in Memphis. You get pushed out. How do you make that next step? How do you figure out what the next step should be?
Well, I always stayed in contact with independents, so I independently wrestled around the area. I was based in Nashville the whole time.
Okay.
Then they asked us to come to the fairgrounds. I was at the fairgrounds a couple of times just as a single match. And then one night I was sitting in the dressing room, and Burt Prentice came in and said, I need a tag team to go against the champions, which was Steve Dunn and Reno Riggins at the time. And he just pointed and went, you and you, get out there. And that was Kory and myself. We went out there. I hardly even knew him. And we just clicked, put on a heck of a match. And Burt came in afterwards and said, that's my tag team. And that started the best 3 years of my life after that.
Right, cool. So could you tell me a little bit about Kory and how you two ended up getting to know each other over the years?
Well, once that was established that we were going to be his tag team, we went and got booked. Well, we got booked by Burt in different towns, and so we just polished our act together. We rode the roads together and got to know each other that way. Kory is a genius when it comes to wrestling. He studied it all his life. Me, I'm just a boy from the bush, just out having a good time in life. And we traveled the roads, and I learned a lot from Kory, and I hope that he learned some from me as well. So.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. And speaking of Kory, yourself and him, this is, as far as I'm concerned, pretty a big deal because you worked in WCW 1995. But then we're 5 years later, and there's an opportunity to wrestle on Saturday night. Yourself and Kory worked with Big Vito and Johnny the Bull
Yes.
On the 19th of January 2000. How did this opportunity come about? Tell me a little bit about the experience.
Okay, so through Burt Prentice, he got us into WWF. We went down to Birmingham, Alabama, and did a dark match. And we did very well. Kurt Angle even came up and congratulated us on our match and everything. But the thing was, our gimmick at the time was a little controversial because you've got a black man and a white man from another country dressed up in Confederate Army uniforms, waving Confederate flags and Australian flags, which at the time I didn't understand the whole story, but I was just like, okay, whatever you want me to do, let's go. But it got so much heat. So when we went to the WWF at that particular time, they were changing. Well, they were trying to go onto the stock market. They were becoming a public company, and we were too controversial for them at that time.
Wow.
So Terry Taylor, who was part of the booking team, he jumped ship to WCW, and he took us with him. So then that's how we ended up in WCW. So we did some matches, but they couldn't run the gimmick that we had because it was a family show. So people have said we were ahead of our time. I mean, I'm sure it would have got eaten up right now, but
right. That's interesting.
What it is. So
cool. I had no idea about the WWF stuff.
So we wrestled as a tag team for a while, and they trying to figure out what they were going to do with us. And we had one win on Saturday night, and then we did those other ones. I got to get that in there. And then they didn't know what to do with Kory, but they liked me not because I was a better wrestler or anything. It was just the gimmick because I was Australian.
Right.
So we did a couple of matches, and then I did that match with Prince Ikea, and that's when they offered me the contract that never eventuated.
Right. Okay. Well, that's very interesting, and I'm going to dig into that very soon. But there was something
Sure.
else I wanted to ask you about because you had this match against Vito and the Johnny the Bull in January, but then in February, you wrestle for this. Is it the Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge? Is this TV show?
Right.
I believe it took place in the UK. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. They flew us out to UK to do this TV show that someone was trying to put together a TV program or something, and I don't ask questions, man. I just do what they want me to do. If you want me to jump off there, I'll do that or whatever, And so I don't know what the whole behind the scenes things was, but it was a lot of fun. The fans were just totally different. They were a lot more lot more sedate. In America, you can get the crowd roused up because there's a lot of rednecks.
Yeah.
In England, I was doing some of the same things that would get reaction, and they just didn't react the same. I remember some little 7-year-old kid, I don't know exactly his age, but he said something to me, and I turned around and said, "Who said that?" And he just goes, "I did." And then I didn't know what to do. Because usually the crowd is going and crazy, and it's like, oh, I just got punked out by a 7-year-old.
That's very good. So when you wrestled there, from what my research tells me again, most of your career so far you've been known as Ashley Hudson, but then you decided to go into the name Ozzie Rulz, which that has a different meaning for us.
ID.
Right.
That was their ID. And of course, when I came back from England and went to WCW, they dropped the rules and just kept the Aussie.
Right. Okay. Interesting. See, I love those little nuggets of information. Very cool. So that's fun. I mean, getting to wrestle in the UK there. So going back to WCW now, excuse me. I'm going to name some opponents, some matches that you had there, and a lot of these were on either WCW Saturday Night or Worldwide.
Gotcha.
And if there's a story, please indulge. If there's no story and you haven't really got anything to add, that's okay. We can move on to the next one, because you never know what we can find. So the 5th of, hang on, maybe I should actually look at my questions. The 2nd of May 2000, yourself and Kory taking on the Harris brothers in Memphis. Do you have any stories of working with the Harris brothers?
They were good guys, but they beat us half to death because they had a gimmick that they were trying to work at to get back into the WWF, and so they weren't going to give us a whole lot. So I mean, it wasn't a memorable match, but the Harris brothers always treated us nice, but in the ring, they were all business.
Okay, see, that's good. I like hearing the story there. The 9th of May 2000. This one might have been a bit of a rough one, but I don't know. We'll see. Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott were the opponents in Springfield, Illinois. How did that go? Because I heard Rick Steiner could be a little rough.
Okay. They had to calm me down and get my blood pressure down because people kept telling us they was going to whoop your ass. They're going to beat you. So I got kind of worked up. And even the Tank Abbott, he even was, niggling. So we get in the ring and have this match, man. I didn't even feel them. They were just as light and as professional as anybody could possibly be. So they got me all worked up for nothing.
Oh, that's great that they ended up being quite light in the ring. Because I had heard some things where Rick might be a bit rough with people, but cool. Okay, well that's nice to hear. 16th of May Here's the big one, the big victory. Yourself and Kory beat the Shane twins in Lafayette,
Uh-huh.
Louisiana. So the big win. Tell me about it.
Okay, it was a good match. These two kids were coming in, and they're twins. So I thought, okay, we're going to put them over to, because they're trying to show them. And then Terry Taylor said, no. Said, no, you get the win. And then when he gave us our finishing move, which was the I can't remember. I know we ended up doing a tilt-a-whirl with a leg drop over the top rope, but at that point we did like a Hart Brothers, well, like the Hart Foundation finish.
Right.
But one thing that I'll never forget in that match was I got poked in the eye. So when I opened my eye, I was seeing double.
Oh, right.
I mean, as clear as anything. They went to shoot me across the mat, across the ring, and I saw two posts. And I'm
Oh,
thinking,
wow.
which one do I hit? And so I just split the difference and landed in the middle. But I vividly remember that. It was like, it wasn't blurry. It was just exactly, there was just two posts there that I was shooting towards.
Oh, wrestling. It's fun stuff, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. The show
So
must go on.
exactly. And this is great. You guys, you get the big win. And I believe most of, if not all of these matches you can find on YouTube. So
Mhm.
it's all very
I'd like
cool.
to see that one again. I haven't seen that one in a long time, but
Right. Well, if I
I'll have
can't
to look
find it on
that out.
YouTube, I'm
Yeah.
sure I've got it on my hard drive somewhere. Okay, cool. So the next one, 6th of June, Knoxville, Tennessee, against Alan Funk and Mike Sanders. Any stories with those two?
Yes. I entered the ring with food poisoning. So we worked out the match, and all I was worried about was taking the a backdrop, I think it was. So we went through the match and take the backdrop. And I'm going, please don't, please don't, please don't. And I hit, boom. Okay, good. Half the crew had food poisoning that day
Oh,
from catering.
really?
Yes,
Oh,
I think it was
geez.
catering like the day before, and then of course I'm not sure where that match what the night before was, but then we ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and that's all I was. I just don't poop your pants.
No, that would be horrible, especially on television.
Oh yeah.
July the 5th. This is the one that you mentioned before, Prince Ikea, when he was known as the Artist in Columbus,
Mhm.
Georgia. So this is the first singles match. Um,
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about this and also like this situation where you were going to be offered a contract.
Okay, so I had this match with him, and everything went smoothly. Um, got out of the ring. Everyone, praised me and that. And then I think it was the following week. I don't remember exactly the timing, but I sat down with Terry Taylor, and he went over that they wanted to give me a contract. And we sat down, we talked money, we talked about everything. And I said, yeah, sure thing. And then that's this time when they were getting ready to sell WCW. They were trying to sell Time Warner. And my understanding is that a lot of the bigger guys had money coming from Time Warner to make WCW look like it was a better proposition.
Yeah.
The people that wanted to buy Time Warner, they had to get rid of WCW out of it because it was all tied together.
Yeah.
So the first thing they did was got rid of all non-contracted employees. So I missed it by that much. Air Paris was one of them. He had his sign, so he got paid for the next year. But if I had got that contract beforehand, then that would have changed everything because I could have quit my job and just gone and completely just wrestled and trained and got myself into a lot better position. But
Right. How interesting. So you've alluded to what were you doing for a job outside of wrestling?
whatever I could that would work around my schedule. I did security for Rock Solid Security, and they did a lot of concerts and things like
Okay.
that. So I did some bodyguard work. I did some retail work, just whatever I could get. I worked in a factory, in a bakery for a while, just whatever I could get to pay the bill and keep the wrestling habit going. Because it was a
Right.
habit at that point.
Okay, cool. So I know around this time with WCW, sometimes some of the guys that might wrestle on Worldwide might be used as an extra in different things on television. Did that ever happen for you?
No, I didn't get that opportunity. I did do a commercial for the Army, and I didn't ever see it air on TV, but I got paid quite handsomely for that. But I was just taking all the bumps, and they had a guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was set up through. I'm getting old. I can't remember as much as I used to, but I got this opportunity, and we went out there, and this young, good-looking guy, beefed up and everything, was, giving me bumps and talking in between them, and then I do close up on me with my facial expressions and things like that. Then afterwards, one of the guys asked me if I was interested in doing voiceover work, and I said yes, I was, and of course that never eventuated. So.
Right. Okay.
Story of my life. Nothing ever eventuated.
So I guess I want to ask some more general questions about like the WCW experience. Can you kind of take me through what a typical day would look like for yourself, getting up, heading to the arena, etc.? What was it? What was the kind of situation like with that?
Okay, so they would always set up the travel. So we'd have to fly or drive to wherever. If it was close, within 3 or 4 hours, we would drive. But if we had to go to Texas or wherever, we ended up in Canada one time and all that sort of thing. So we always flew. So we'd have to fly in, get a rental car, get to a hotel, get the hotel room, get your stuff together, get to the arena. And then it was a lot of hurry up and wait. And so we sat around by the ring, and they would bring us and tell us exactly what we were doing, because we were doing the R&B security for WCW at that time, getting out the ring and getting knocked over and all that sort of thing. And we had certain things that we had to do, and so they would walk through it, and we got to watch all the main stars kind of work out what they were going to do for their matches. And so you just kind of hung around and ate, and then afterwards we'd always go and party a little bit, and then get into the hotel, and then get up the next day, travel again.
Right, cool. Yeah, I love hearing about all that kind of thing. 'Cause I find that to be just as interesting as the in-ring stuff. What goes on,
Yes.
How things are set up and all that. So when you had this opportunity to be signed to a contract and it didn't eventuate, what was your next step? Like, what did you think that you were going to do with yourself at that point?
Well, at that point, I headed and did tryout matches for TNA. And then an opportunity came through Luke of the Bushwhackers to go to Puerto Rico. So I went to Puerto Rico as a Bushwhacker, and then that was kind of fun. I got a picture of it right here. If you can see that, there's Luke and I.
Oh, wow. That is great.
But, that's how I got down there, and then we wrestled together as a tag team for just a few weeks, and then they turned me heel against him, and then I did the Aussie gimmick again.
Right, cool. So Puerto Rico is pretty crazy kind of wrestling country. They can be quite passionate. Do you have any tales of the crazy Puerto Rican fans?
Okay, so the night that they turned me, I guess they turned me on Luke, beat him up, and then the next week we were going into the ring, and it was going to be a tag match with somebody else against them. And so we're standing in the back, and there's the hallway, and then there's a curtain, and he's sitting in there. He's going, "I want violence. Get out there and you got to be really vicious and blah blah blah." And then all of a sudden, the curtain opened, and the security guards were bringing a rowdy fan through, and in the process of bringing them through, a 9mm gun landed on the ground, and we all stopped and looked at it. Then looked at me, and he goes, "Just remember, half of them have got guns out there." And I'm like, "What?" So I got to go out here in the arena and be a heel for the first time because I've just beat up their favorite boy Luke. And yeah, it was pretty interesting.
He thought going out there and wrestling Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott was a scary situation.
Yeah.
People who are packing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, there's always a funny story when I talk to people about Puerto Rico, and we got one just there. One other match I forgot to ask you about, because I believe this was the final time you wrestled in WCW, going back to 2000, sorry. July 25th, it says you wrestled a dark match in Worldwide against Mike Awesome. Was that the last time you wrestled for WCW?
I don't remember that one personally. No, I do not.
Okay.
So, yeah,
No
pretty much finished up after that. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Was there any?
I did do a dark match with Alan Funk in Australia. That was one of the best matches I'd ever had.
Right. So was that the Australian tour that they did?
They did the Australian tour, yes, and I had flown down to be with my family, and I flew to Melbourne and hooked up with the WCW, and they gave me a dark match in front of 20,000 Australians, and that was like the highlight of my career. That was
wow, that would have been really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
So what was it about the match with Alan that did they give you a bit of time and you used to really worked a good match?
They gave us a little time and got to work the crowd. I had because my whole gimmick was, with the Australian flag and the boomerang. I always took a boomerang to the ring.
Yeah.
And that was about the first time that I had ever heard of the Aussie, oi, oi, oi. It was just before that through the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And obviously I've got my Olympic Games shirt on. But I got up on the ropes and had Alan Funk down, and was about to do the traditional 10 punches, and I got halfway through and went, "Aussie, Aussie, Aussie," and that whole crowd just went, "Oi, oi, oi," and it just sent shivers up my back.
That is really cool, man. That's what a great moment for you. And I remember that tour because I had tickets in Perth, but of course the Perth show got cancelled because we didn't have enough sales.
Right.
But I interviewed someone that worked behind the scenes at WCW, and I got an official apology from them. So
okay. Well, that would have been cool. Then I wouldn't have had, if they had have gone to Perth, I wouldn't have had to fly over to the east, and you would have got to see me.
Yeah, exactly. So again, some more, of your journey in professional wrestling. I believe you wrestled for a company called USA Wrestling in Tennessee. There's a bunch of guys that wrestled for this company in 2002 that were also a part of WCW for a period of time. Mark Jindrak, Chris Harris, Kory was there, David Young, Chris Cage, Jason Jett. How's wrestling for this organization?
I don't remember the organization so much as far as that went, but I did enjoy. I always enjoyed wrestling, and some of the favorite people were like people like Air Paris, David Young, Cassidy Riley, Alan Funk, Jindrak, all those guys. I just had some really good matches with them. So
yeah, a whole bunch of great talent there because okay, we're in 2002 now. ECW's gone, WCW's gone. There's one big company, and there's only so many spots. So I would imagine that I guess the independent circuit for some time was stacked full of people who were probably TV ready. But there's just only so many spots. So again, as you alluded to before, talking about TNA, NWA TNA, I believe you teamed with Ron Harris against America's Most Wanted on the 15th NWA TNA pay-per-view on October 2nd, 2002. So how did you find the experience with TNA at the beginning there?
I love those two guys. I had a lot of good matches with those, with both Chris Harris and James Storm. Actually, James Storm, I have a good story about him from back in the independent days before we got there. We wrestled at it was a VFW hall, and they had it outside. And of course, the VFW hall, they serve beer.
Yep.
All right. So everyone's drunk, and they're all around the ring outside, sitting on their cars. And so James Storm and I have this match, and James has got his family there, and he never smarted them up. So they weren't smart at all. So he told me, he said, throw me out the ring. So we go out the ring, and he said to body slam him on the gravel ground in front of his family. So I did that, and in the process, his foot hit a girl in the chest, and she went down. And so I thought, oh crap, I got to get her back in the ring. So we got back in the ring, and I watched the video afterwards that one of his family members was making, and this guy come over and he said, what happened? What happened? They said, Ashley Hudson kicked her. And of course, I had nothing to do with it. So I'm in the ring, and I got James, and I look over in the out the corner of my eye, and this guy's coming in the ring. He puts one foot in the ring. I just watch, and I was trained. If they get 2 feet in the ring, they're yours. And then the second foot came in the ring, and I just ran straight across, and I booted him right in the chest, knocked the air out of him, took him to the ground. And if you watch the video, everybody just piled up on top. When everybody come off, I was gone. I was already out of the ring.
Oh, gee, some of these fans sometimes, bro.
Yeah.
There was another really interesting thing that had happened with yourself in NWA TNA. I remember, I believe this was the first TNA pay-per-view that, for the weekly pay-per-views, that you could actually order in Australia. It was like the Australian debut for TNA.
Okay.
22nd of January 2003, I believe. The character you came out like you a bit more with the Australian gimmick. You had the boomerang, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You wrestled Jorge Estrada, and got a big win there. Us boys were all, me and my friends were all sitting in a lounge room watching this. How old would have he been? 14, 15 years old, and we were just like, wow, there's an Australian wrestler. We didn't we thought that there was any like Outback Jack and stuff. You know, that stage we didn't know anything about any other Australian wrestlers, so we were just like so excited that there was an Australian. This must have been pretty cool for you, you know, getting a big singles win.
Yes, it's always good to get a win, but that's not the name of the game. The name of the game is just to put on a really good show. Where I was always taught, people know it's a work, just don't be the one to prove it. So I always went at it with that mindset, and I probably wrestled a little harder than most anyway. But
right, yes. So at this stage, it appears that yourself and Kory aren't teaming together. You know, as far as, because, you know, I would say yourself and Kory, you know, kind of like your careers kind of mean a lot to one another, I would assume, because you guys were teaming together.
Yeah.
You know, just speaking on your friendship with him and working with him over the years, you know, do you still keep in touch with Kory? How are things going with him?
Oh yeah, Kory only lives about an hour away from where I am. I haven't spoken to him. It's been a while, and I haven't seen him in quite a while. But we've chatted on the phone from time to time. But we did lose touch for a long, long time. But Air Paris was the one that put us back in touch with each other a few years back, and so
that's good.
We just kind of went separate ways. I started chase international stuff. I'd signed on for a tour to India. Okay, so let's back up. Let's back up. So
cool.
When WCW fell apart, I went to let's see. I'm trying to get it right. I went to sign on to go to India. So I had my passport had to go off and be stamped, and everything was in the works. And while my passport was out, 9/11 hit.
Oh,
Well, that changed everything.
Yeah.
So there I am. I'm like, okay, I don't even have a passport right now. Then finally the passport came back, And then, so once that all started settling down, and I don't remember exactly the timing, but also there was talk of Kory and I going to, I think this was before that, talk of Kory and I going to, it's either Argentina or is somewhere down in South America on a wrestling tour. And the tour before we went, some kid overdosed on drugs. So that got canceled.
Ah.
So
How
from there,
frustrating.
that's when I went to Puerto Rico after that.
Right.
And while I was in Puerto Rico, when my tour had finished in Puerto Rico, I had got engaged and I came back and got married. Then I was trying to get to Japan. Japan was always my dream. I
Yeah.
wanted to get to Japan because it was as a big sport, it's closer to home. I could, stay home and travel to and from.
Yeah.
So that was the big goal. And before I could get there, I got sick, and that's when everything changed for me. So
Right. So, what happened?
okay, so because I'm an older person trying to keep up with these studs, I did steroids.
Okay.
And the steroids ended up taking a toll on me. I did them for 12 years. And when I got to the WCW, trying to chase that last little bit, I was on it for like 2.5 years solid, never took a break. And it ended up with my kidneys were failing and
Oh,
all that.
shit.
So my last 3 weeks in Puerto Rico, I had a bad back. I had back pain, and they got a commission down there, and the commissioning doctor was giving me Vicodin to get me through. So the last 3 weeks, so the last 21 days I was there, I wrestled 19 times with a bad back. Came back and did a match for TNA, and it was the weirdest match. It was like I stepped out of my body and just watched it happen. And then when I went to the gym after that, like a couple of days later, I couldn't even lift my warm-up weights. And I figured, okay, something's going on here. And that's when I ended up
Shit.
going to the doctor and find out. And what it was my kidneys were shutting down. That's what the back pain was. So
Oh, gosh.
I had to get all that out, get all clean and everything. And then I did some matches in 2003 after I got married and all that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And it was not the same. It was hard. You don't realize that, the steroids will help you recover
Right.
really fast. So without them, it was painful in the ring. And by that time, I'm 40 years of age too. So I just saw the opportunity to get out, and I did. And the reason I tell you that is because if I can stop one child or one athlete from taking steroids, then I've done my job. They're a great they're a great drug if used correctly. They just don't belong in the hands of people like me.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's an important message to get out there.
That's the dark side.
Of course, the dark side of the ring.
Yeah.
So okay, so you had to make the decision to walk away from the professional
Mhm.
wrestling business. You got married over there now at this point. Um, Firstly, I want to ask you, did you know that your last match that you had was going to be your last match as you were about to have it?
No, I know. I decided that in the ring.
Oh, really?
I said, "Yep, I'm going to walk away." Um, Before I ever left Australia to become a professional wrestler, I told myself I would become a professional wrestler or die trying. Be careful what you wish for; you just might get it. And I also said that I would recognize the day and I would walk away and never go back. And the other thing I said is if the day that I could not look at myself in the mirror, then I would walk away. But that wasn't the reason. The reason was because I was older. I had a wife. We were thinking about a family.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, this is not going to work for me. I needed to, raise a family, and
Yeah.
I needed to walk away and be happy with what I did. And I was.
Well, see, that's
Yeah.
good to hear because, a lot of people can, they leave the business, they have a hard time staying out and they have to keep
Hmm.
going back. So it's good that you could recognize that, okay, I'm at a crossroads here. It's time to take a different path.
Yes.
Um, so what was the first step after retiring from professional wrestling? You told me about all the different jobs you'd had. Um, what was your path after this?
Well, I had to go and get a real job, and I'm trying to think of the first job that I had got was working in a small factory. I had factory experience. I was a maintenance mechanic before I ever got to the wrestling world, so I always had something to fall back on, and so I just kind of fell back on that, worked in factories and worked my way up, and then we ended up moving from Tennessee to Kentucky because that's where my wife was originally from when we had the little kids, and got into refrigeration and was very, very successful at that. And I am very happy and uh, did very well with that. So
That's excellent to hear.
living my next dream on 10 acres of land and with my beehives and a hot rod.
Oh, that is awesome, bro.
I did all right. I cannot
No,
complain.
that sounds like the dream to me.
Uh-huh.
So one question I had, you took this. This is a big journey that you've been on. You're from Perth, Western Australia, most isolated city in the world. I love to say that.
Right.
And you managed to go all the way over there. You had this. You fulfilled a dream, and then you stopped wrestling, and you continued to live in the United States. Why did you never move back to Perth? Were you at that point
Okay.
just
No, what it was um, I chose to leave my country and come to America.
yeah?
And I told my mom, when I first announced it, she said, "You're going to go over there and have grandchildren that I'll never get to see." I said, "No, Mom." I said, "I'm not even going to stay there." I said, "I'm going to go over there, make my millions, and come on home." Of course, life had a different idea. So my choice was to come to this country. I met my wife here.
Hmm.
So for us to come back would have to be her choice.
Yeah.
If I had have brought her back, she would have resented me for the rest of my life to take
Mm.
her away from my family. So that's how I ended up staying here. And as you know, I journey back frequently to go and see my family.
Yep.
Not as often as I'd like to. I stay in contact. Modern technology, I can FaceTime my family and talk to them on the phone quite a bit. So we stay in touch.
Yep. And to be honest, Perth is a pretty nice place to
Sure. Oh,
holiday
I'd love to
to.
be back there. Yeah. Certainly changed since I left, though.
No, it has changed quite a bit over the years. If you don't go into the city for like 6 months and then you go in there, you're like, wow, everything's changed again.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting towards the end of the interview here, Ashley, and I just had so much fun learning about your journey. And I had another question here for you, like, how do you hope to be remembered from your time in professional wrestling?
The little Aussie battler.
I dig
Battled
it.
my way through against all the odds at the wrong time in my life, and with all the as everybody likes to say, the universe against me, and I still made it to the big time. Just was the timing was just not right, and that was not entirely my fault because I didn't have the opportunity. I had to make it. So
I completely understand what you're talking about there. I used to sing in a hard rock band,
okay,
and if that band was in the 80s, we would have done great, I think, because you could play every day of the week, but it was
yeah,
the wrong decade for me, unfortunately. So I get you. I get what you mean about timing.
yeah.
Okay, so we get to this final segment here of the interview here, Ashley, where I ask you about your favorite things. So it's supposed to be like a quick fire question for a quick fire answer. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes,
Cool. Who is your favorite professional wrestler of all time?
Bret Hart,
Fantastic choice. Do you have somebody that you would say is your favorite opponent that you had over the years?
James Storm.
Excellent. I think I know the answer to this one, as you alluded to it before. I would assume your favorite match that you ever had was the one with Alan in Australia.
Yes, that was the highlight of my career. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Moving away from wrestling now, do you have a favorite book?
I'm really ate up with the Jack Reacher stories.
Very nice. I dig it. Do you have a favorite TV show?
I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I like watching car shows,
Very
car building
nice.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I'm a petrol head from way back.
Cool. Do you have a favorite film of all time?
Gladiator.
Excellent.
If you watch Gladiator, it reminds me of Kory and I as a wrestling team. If you look, that Russell Crowe and you got the black guy, and then
yeah.
you've got like the promoters, and they're getting them into the thing, and it's just like, yeah, that's pretty good. Also, The Wrestler is a good movie. When I first watched it with my wife told me to stop squeezing her hand
Oh,
because
really?
I just started squeezing her hand because if I had not have met her, that would have been my life.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's
So,
powerful.
because I had something to leave and go to,
Yeah,
whereas in the movie he did not.
that's exactly it. Yeah, good point.
It was way too real for me.
Absolutely. Okay. Do you have a favorite band or a musical artist?
Joe Bonamassa, right now.
Very nice. Getting away from the arts now, do you have a favorite food?
Meat pies.
Yeah, all right. Nice.
Just can't get them very well over here.
Do you have a favorite place to eat on the road?
No, not really. I tend to go with healthier choices. I like Panera Bread, places like that that serve a little more healthier food. But also like Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm a big wing fan. I like chicken wings.
Very good. I agree. Three to go here, Ashley. Do you have a favorite alcoholic beverage?
I'm a beer guy.
Of course, Australian.
Yeah, that's right. What else is there?
Second last one here. Could be considered a naughty one, but it can get a very meaningful answer sometimes. It's a favorite female body part or attribute. You know, if you see a good-looking lady, you know, what would Ashley look at first?
Backside.
Very nice. By the way, Mr. Don Morocco is also an ass man. The last one here, Ashley, we've had this great interview. I don't think you've said any curse words, but if you had a favorite curse word, what would it be?
I always say bloody.
Yeah,
It
bloody's a good
throws
one.
people off. I'm not big into cursing. I'm not big into cursing.
No, I can't. I could tell. I could tell. You're a gentleman, Ashley.
Well, thank you.
But Ashley, this brings us to the end of the interview here, and I've been so excited to interview you because I remember I interviewed Air Paris. Oh God, 3 years ago, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that. And he'd mentioned that he knew you, and I kept hounding him and hounding him. Can you please get me in touch with him? Please get me in touch with him. But then I ended up getting rid of my old Facebook account. It's a long story,
Okay.
so I kind of fell out of touch with him. But now I've got a new one for networking purposes, where I finally got the opportunity to get in touch with you. And
Cool.
I really wanted to have the opportunity to say this to you because like to have representation from someone from my country already meant something to me, right? But then to like find out like he's from Perth, that even like for me even more like was inspiring to me and exciting to me, and knowing that I was going to get the chance to talk to someone who had a similar dream that I have to find success in some field, but I might not be able to find it in my city. I might have to go to the other side of the globe. But you actually got to live out that dream, and it's so cool and inspiring. And it makes me want to say to you, like, damn, like you should be so proud of what you accomplished. Because wrestling at that point, the Monday Night Wars, the late 90s, 2000,
Not very wrong
anyone
again.
getting on television, anyone, you know how difficult that would be with when the best of the best were, oh dear.
Okay, what happened there? Well, I lost you.
I was in the middle of my passionate speech and then it cut out.
I know what I missed it.
Okay, I'll kind of like rewind a little bit. It's inspiring to me that you took the journey from Perth. You made your dreams come true. You wrestled for the biggest organizations in the world during a time where the field was so competitive. The fact that you're actually able to get on television, you should be so proud that you're able to get that far because of how competitive the field was at the time. And it's an inspiration to me. And I just wanted to say, all the way here from Perth, Western Australia, right from where you're born, you have a fan right here, my friend.
Oh man, that's awesome. And I'm really sorry that we couldn't hook up when I was last down there at Christmas time, but I promise you, next time I'm in town, you and I are going to have a beer.
Excellent, bro. We'll make sure that the beers are on ice, and we'll make sure we get some nice buffalo chicken wings.
There you go. Okay.
Well, thank you very much again,
I
Ashley.
appreciate you letting me get my story out, because like I said, I just didn't think anybody really cared. And it's been 20 years since I was ever in the scene. I don't even go to independent shows or anything like that because, I walked away. I'm staying away. I stay in contact with a few people and I watch a little bit on TV, and there's some good talent out there. And, but I appreciate you letting me get my story out.
I'm really glad, Ashley, and it means a lot to me that I was able to do that. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really honestly appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley. And thank all of you out there for joining us here for the Insider's Edge podcast here. Two brothers from Perth just having a chin wag. I'm Karlifornia. This is Ashley Hudson, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Hooroo.